Three tight ends from the 2024 NFL draft class are heading into pivotal training camps because their offenses are going to need them in either the run game, the passing game, or both. Ja'Tavion Sanders, Tip Reiman, and Theo Johnson. We're going to talk about this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. Keep talking to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champion, man. And what the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. If you can hear my voice, go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to comment and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel over at Locked On NFL Draft DP. This is a tight end show, man. We have Mr. Ja'Tavion Sanders. Yes, can he be an offensive weapon for Mr. Bryce Young? Tip Reiman, right? He's in Arizona, man. What will he provide for Kyler Murray along with Marvin Harrison Jr.? And then a big opportunity for Giants tight end Theo Johnson. Yes, with Darren Waller retiring, Theo Johnson maybe slated to be tight end one entering the season as a rookie. But DP, before we get started with this conversation, man, why don't you hit him with our title sponsor?
LinkedIn helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Ja'Tavion Sanders, Keith, needs a strong camp, needs a strong training camp to leapfrog his way into that starting role. Right now, ESPN.com, looking at the depth chart, how they have it set up for the Carolina Panthers, they actually have him as tight end 2 behind Tommy Tremble in front of Ian Thomas and Steven Sullivan. And I agree with that. I think he should be the tight end 2 just entering camp. Ian Thomas, I live in the Carolinas, guys. I've watched him, ever since they drafted. I remember him as a draft prospect. He was a enticing guy, big, athletic, physical frame, all that good stuff. But he has never developed, matured, or materialized into anything more than what he was as a college player. Like he could block, he's a good blocker in the run game, but he hasn't turned into anything. And then he's had drops, stuff like that as a pass catcher. Ja'Tavion Sanders, if he's already ahead of him at tight end 2, great. I think his way of getting on the field and taking the top spot from Tommy Tremble, Keith, is the one thing we discussed about him that scouts and teams had concerns about: run blocking and the effort in run blocking, because Dave Canellis are going to run the ball with Chuba Hubbard and whenever Jonathan Brooks come back. So if he can just run block, he's already a better pass catcher than Tommy Tremble. Tommy Tremble came out of Notre Dame as a pure blocker. He's still trying to develop as a pass catcher, where Ja'Tavion Sanders, you can flex him out wide, flex him in the slot, and you know what you're going to get from him. If he can just give you more effort in the run game to help secure edges for the running backs, oh yeah, he probably should. He should be tight end 1, because this is a guy who can help open the field up for Bryce Young.
DP, I agree with you, but the problem is I don't know if I'm going to bank on Ja'Tavion Sanders being a run blocker in order to be tight end 1. So what do you do, right? Because you can't put him on the field if he isn't going to run block at all. And so the question is, because I'm like, okay, well, maybe he can be the wide receiver, right? And be wide receiver 3, but they have a solid 3 wide receivers, right? We talk about Xavier Legette, Adam Thielen, Deontay Johnson. Man, that's way better than what they had last year entering the season. Oh my God. But then you have Amir Smith-Marset, right? Terrace Marshall, Jonathan Mingo. So they have a solid wide receiver core as far as their top 5 to 6, which are decent players. Now, but the conversation is, how do you get Ja'Tavion Sanders on the field? Because I feel like he is a supremely talented player. I liked him a lot. I expected him to test way better. I did not expect a 4.65, somewhere around there, what he ran in a 40 time. And then just with You know what else I observed, DP? It just appeared his body profile. Like he could have, I think it's fair to say, been in the weight room a little more. Like you know, you kind of want to be a little bit more shredded, right? A little bit more cut as that tight end position. And look like he can afford to just hit the weights a little bit more, especially in the NFL. So I'm simply trying to find out, where do you put him on the field? Because I think he is talented, he is skilled enough. And I think about, we always, because we bring in X's and O's a little bit right into this podcast, and we talk about tendencies, right? Is that I don't want, if I'm Cornelius, right, for the defense to know, oh, if I run Tommy Tremble out there, it's a run. If I run Jatavian Sanders out there,
It's always a pass.
It's always a pass. So it's one of those things where something have to give, right? Tommy Tremble got to become a better pass catcher, or Jatavian Sanders has to become a better run blocker. One of the two. And it's a very difficult situation, because I don't want to leave the talent that is Jatavian Sanders off of the football field.
No, absolutely not. And you can't, man, because he, like you said, because of how talented he is, you need him out there, especially as a pass catcher. You want to, their defense may not be, unless they go get like a Stephon Gilmore or something to shore up that secondary alongside J.C. Horn, who's never stayed healthy. Praying he stays healthy, because he could be one of the top corners in the game if he stays healthy. This defense took a hit losing, Brian Burns, right? Yep. Frankie Louvu's gone. Jeremy Chin is gone. Like, they lost some guys defensively. Mm-hmm. So it's like, but you put that resources into your offense and say, listen, thank God 2025 has a defensive loaded class, because we can just go defense if our offense shows us what we need to see. And it's going to take getting Jatavian Sanders on the field. That's why I said, if you can, and like I said, I don't need him to be Gronk, Keith. I don't need him to be George Kittle. I don't need him to take Aiden Hutchinson and spike him in the dirt. I don't need any of that. I just need you to, play like a big man in basketball. Set me a screen. Seal the edge. I don't need you to do all the running your feet, being physical and displacing all the time. Just seal that guy. If you can seal him, because they run, especially Chuba. Chuba's kind of versatile. They run power and zone stuff with him. And I think similar with Jonathan Brooks and Miles Sanders, who's still there. So if they get into that lateral run game, just seal them, right? If you're or if it is gap, but it's gap to or a power scheme like pin and pull concepts to the outside, just pin the guy. Use his momentum against him, pin him to the interior of the line of scrimmage, and give your running back a edge to be able to bounce it out or follow his blockers outside. I don't even need you to be some physical displacer. Nah, just seal guys, because if he does that, then don't get me wrong. Tommy Tremble has made some nice strides as a pass catcher. He's still behind Jatavian Sanders as a pass catcher. And getting Jatavian Sanders on the field, in my opinion, is going to be paramount for this offense, because you need to. I always use basketball. It's one thing when you don't have a lot of talent, but it's one thing when I think it was the year that Klay Thompson was hurt and it was Steph and Draymond. Yeah, we know who's getting doubled. Okay, like we know who's getting double teamed. It's Steph. Because teams are like, man, we're playing 4-on-5 because Draymond can't score. You don't want that with Tommy Tremble or Ian Thomas on the field, where it's like, oh, we're going pass sets, and the linebackers are dropping back. Like, yeah, I'm taking away Xavier Legette. I'm helping underneath on Adam Thielen, on Deontay Johnson, because Tommy Tremble and Ian Thomas don't scare me. But if you put a Jatavian Sanders out there, those guys can strike fear in the hearts of defenders because of his pass catching ability and on-field athleticism. Like you said, he looks more athletic on tape than he tests at the combine.
Yeah, DP, and I use this phrase for cornerbacks when I talk about being a serviceable tackler. I think we just need him to be a serviceable run blocker, right? At the end of the day. And listen, DP, you sent a shot at Draymond Green, so if you end up on this podcast later, I wouldn't be surprised, man. You're gonna have to answer for that on the podcast, man. But you know what they say, right?
I got some words.
All publicity is good publicity, I guess, right? DP, at the end of the day, but man, let's keep this thing going and flowing, man. We're headed to the desert. Yes, man, we headed to that Scottsdale, Glensdale, Phoenix area. We're going to talk about Mr. Tip Reiman, right? Can he develop as a pass catcher with Kyler Murray out there in Arizona as they're trying to round out this offense, right? We know with Jonathan Gannon, they want to run the football also. So can he be that versatile tight end piece for the Arizona Cardinals?
Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your number one ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or you get your money back. Why? Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts that you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your number one ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Tip Reiman, Keith, the guy that coming out of the University of Illinois, tested pretty well at the combine. Came in at 6'5", 271. He ran a 4.64, a 1.55 10-yard split, which, just from context, Xavier Legette ran a 4.39, and his 10-yard split was a 1.54. You know what I mean? Like, I think Adonai Mitchell was in that 1.55, 1.54 range as well. He jumped 33 and a half. He had a 10-1 in the broad, and he put up almost 30 reps on the bench. If it's one thing that he's going to do is going to help him contribute to this team, is run blocking. He's an outstanding run blocker to me, and that was his role at Illinois. They didn't have really good quarterback play, so like the passing targets and options wasn't high quality. And now going into an offense that has Trey McBride, already tight end one. They have a move tight end that was a receiver in Elijah Higgins from Stanford that they signed after Miami Dolphins cut bait with them last season, who looked pretty good in that tight end and move tight end role for them. With Tip Reiman, I hope that he can develop with more targets. I think that, he's got enough functional athleticism. When I watched him run routes at Illinois, even though he didn't get the ball, he didn't look stiff-hipped and rigid. He looked like a smooth mover in and out of his breaks, knew how to separate, things like that. And then when you have a body type of 6'5", 270, some DBs are going to be like, yeah, I don't really want to do this. This is not a tackle I'm trying to make by myself, one-on-one. And he's physical. He's powerful. So I think for them, man, I hope he can develop. And I think he can. I think this offense, I don't think he's going to get the targets or the opportunity in year one because, well, it depends. Because the defense is young. So you can see them giving up points and they have to throw it. But Drew P, their OC, wants to run the rock. He wants to run the ball with James Conner and Trey Benson and now having Kyler Murray. But I could see him kind of just working with Trey McBride, working with that offensive staff and becoming a better pass catcher. And if you can get him, like I just talked about Tommy Tremble, he's not a bad pass catcher. He's just not on the level of Jatavian Sanders. If you can get Tip Reiman on that type of arc as a pass catcher, as your tight end 2, tight end 3, somewhere in there, that's good stuff for the Arizona Cardinals.
DP, I always talk about, like you said, coaching perspective, right? If I'm a coach, I want my best 11 on the football field, right? So I'm going to present a situation because I like Tip Reiman. I think he's where he was drafted. I thought he was a great selection. I think he's the ideal developmental piece, meaning that you haven't seen a lot in college, but give me that guy at 6'5", 270 running a 4.5 that I've seen enough on film and I can get what I need out of him, and he'll probably show to be a well-rounded tight end. I think he really fits that mold, DP. What I was going to say was I'm going to present this situation. They have Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson, right, which are two guys I think they're going to play a lot. Zay Jones listed as a number 3, Greg Dortch, Chris Moore, Zach Pascal, right? I'm identifying Zay Jones. And what if, because you watch the Cardinals, you swap out Zay Jones with a Mr. Trey McBride. And Trey McBride operates as your outside guy a little bit, but also your slot wide receiver. And then you put a Tip Reiman on the field and allow him to be your starting tight end. And you roll out those guys as your skill position players. How do you feel about that? And I'm asking you because I know you've watched a good amount of the Arizona Cardinals over the years. I know you had to write for them, so you almost specialize in the Arizona Cardinals, right? So I want to ask you, how do you feel about that? With that being the skill position group.
I mean, I don't hate that at all, Keith. You know what I mean? Mainly because of some fact you got a bunch of big bodies on the field. All those guys are 6'2" and better, you know, and so for Kyler Murray, you have a bunch of big targets. I think the only drawback that, you know I can hear Arizona Cardinals fans now, well, we don't have a quick the quick winner, and that's what Greg Dortch is in the slot, that quick chain mover, first down guy, like, you know, for their option routes, the quick passes where he's really good after the catch, things of that nature. But if you trot out that offense that you just threw out there, Marv, you know, Michael Wilson, put Trey McBride, kind of that power slot almost in a sense, and then have Tip Reiman as that traditional tight end like that. And to be honest with you, I think that's a chance that could happen. More so coming out of 12, like they come out in 12 where both tight ends are in line, and then Kyler Murray sees something that he likes. Go ahead and make a quick call. Now you got Trey McBride flexing out, getting the line because you want, okay, it's man to man. I got a linebacker on him. All right, cool. I know where my hot is. I know where my attention is going to go post snap if they stay in this look, right? Different things of that nature. If it's cover one and now you got the safety shading over the Marv because it's like, yeah, we're not letting you go off. Like somebody else can get theirs, but we're not letting you get going. Then what does that do? That opens up everything else, right? And that allows you to see, okay, if it is man-to-man, all right, I got either a safety or a linebacker on Trey McBride, and I know that he can win that matchup. Or I might have a lower coverage safety on Tip Reiman or a DB on Tip Reiman. And it was like, I kind of feel comfortable with that button hook in the middle of the field at 5 yards, throwing it to him, letting him be physical to get yards after the catch and push his way upfield to potentially get a first down, move the chains. There's definitely some flexibility from a player personnel grouping and package situation for them. They can do a lot of different things. And I think Drew P, the OC, he called a really good season last year, his first year, and that was mostly without K1, without Kyler Murray. Now bringing in Kyler Murray and the talent that they have in there, you know, I'm actually looking forward to see what this offense looks like. And with all these the tight ends, the big body receivers, this team could be a vertical passing offense with some horizontal aspects built into it, especially off of the run game.
Yeah, I think, and we talked about it last podcast, I think it was yesterday, DP. We talked about Benson not providing some physicality. I think Tip Reiman can do the same thing to probably really provide some balance to the offense, because I think everybody, once they see the Cardinals, they're going to automatically think two things, right? They're going to think Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr., right? Pass the football. But being able to run the rock, like you said, they drafted, and that's going to be a key draft prospect, Mr. Trey Benson, right? And then you add Tip Reiman, letting him play in line, will provide some balance to this offense. And they did it against the Dallas Cowboys with that week 2 or 3, I think, of last year, right? They came, punched the Dallas Cowboys in the face with Josh Dobbs at quarterback, but simply running the football. So we'll see how that thing plays out. But Tip Reiman is an under the radar guy that I'm excited about, DP, to see how does he develop as a draft prospect headed into the NFL. DP, let's wrap this thing up in the Big Apple, man. Big Apple with Mr. Theo Johnson replacing Darren Waller, right? Darren Waller retired for the New York Giants, and we've watched the HBO show Hard Knocks inside the draft with the New York Giants. They simply need a win, man. The Giants need a win. The front office needs a win. So we're going to talk about what can Theo Johnson provide for them as a tight end prospect heading into the NFL as a rookie, coming up next.
When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Guys, LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot for being our everydayers. Theo Johnson, a guy, Keith, that I believe the report came out, recently that he had a little bit of a hip flexor. They put him on the physical unable to perform list, but it's not expected to be anything long-term or a long-term setback. It's just something that looks like just kind of a short situation for him to be able to get going, but that limits how quick of a start he can get with training camp. But still, we still got the rest of training camp, preseason. There's ample time for him. I think it's a big opportunity with Darren Waller retiring. I think we talked about it after the retirement, but the only other tight end on the team that you think about that's going to play a lot of snaps is Daniel Bellinger that they drafted a couple years ago, right? 2022 4th round at San Diego State, right? So adding a Theo Johnson, I think this is a situation, and honestly, I think this is what Brian Daboll might really want to happen. And once Theo Johnson comes back, we talk about it with Arizona running 12. I think they might want to run 12. Number one reason, to protect Daniel Jones, right? Try and get the run game going, but also limit his exposure to passing. Because it's like you don't want him because Daniel Jones comes off as a guy that if you can get him, like, keep his confidence up, he's fine. But if things go downhill, it might snowball, Keith. And I don't think Brian Daboll feels like dealing with a snowball effect or avalanche of emotions of Daniel Jones not being in the right headspace because he just threw a pick, because, things of that nature. Like, they need to run the ball. And we already talked about Malik Neighbors, but Theo Johnson being able to come out there, be another, he's a really good blocker. We saw that at Penn State. But he's athletic too. Big 6'5", vertical speed, and he's a better route runner, like in direction changer than his body type would make you believe. So I think there's a chance for him to also be impactful in the passing game, because again, Daniel Jones isn't the most accurate guy. And Keith, what you do for guys who struggle with accuracy, you give them big targets.
Yeah, no, I agree. DP, I'm struggling, man. I'm struggling because we talk about the New York Giants, and I'm trying to move on, right? I'm trying to turn the page, but I can't help but when I hear the New York Giants, I just think about it. They let Saquon Barkley go. And that's not even part of this show topic, DP, but I had to get that out. They let Saquon Barkley go to pay Daniel Jones. I had to get it out, DP. I got it off my chest. Now we can go to Theo Johnson. I couldn't move on without saying it, DP, but I cannot talk about the New York Giants without saying that part. But I've got it out. I'm good now. I'm on them. Theo Johnson. Theo Johnson, I agree. I would say this. When I look at this, they need him. They need him, and it's because he's their one lone big body guy, right? Like, as far as a receiving target, you talk about Malik Neighbors, 6 foot, Darius Slayton, right at that spot. Wan'Dale Robinson, I think 5'8", Jalen Hyatt, 6 foot. They don't have a lot of big bodied, 200+ pound, 220-pound guys, period. Allen Robinson might be the only guy, and I know how you feel about Allen Robinson from our staff call a couple years ago. So I think they need Theo Johnson, let alone Darren Waller retiring, right? Like, that just ended so abruptly. And the role that you had for Darren Waller, I hope that Theo Johnson can fill that role, and I think he can. I think, like you said, for how high cut he is, he's actually has short area quickness too, as an element, as a part of his game. And you would think that him playing at Penn State, right? Obviously the quarterback situation is, not great. New York Giants quarterback situation isn't great either. I just thought about that. But what we do is maybe we can get him more targets, DP. Inside the New York Giants, they can scheme some things open. You know who I trust? I'm trusting in DP, who I didn't jump off the bandwagon of, Brian Daboll. I still think Brian Daboll is a good play call. I think if you hand him lemons, he can make a lemonade, right? And so I'm expecting Theo Johnson to be involved. But also, too, I hope this injury situation is not a big deal, because old adage, right? Best ability is availability.
Yeah, I read the report. It said that he can come off PUP whenever they deem him ready to return. So it's not a long-term thing. So that's good. Hip flexor, those probably, we've seen those kind of take guys out for a couple weeks.
And he's so important. I wouldn't even rush him back. Like
No.
because at the end of the day, his athletic profile is his athletic profile, right? Now it's just about taking the mental reps, making sure he's healthy, making sure that thing is massaged out, because I think he's going to be so important. You don't want this hip flexor to pop up in week 4 again. And now he has to go on PUP again. And I think he's out for 6 weeks or something like that. It has to be, or the IR, what is, I think it's 2 different versions of IR now. So you don't want that to be the case either.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Bellinger, he's a solid player himself, solid athletic profile, big body. Those are the 2 big body guys, him and Theo Johnson. Yep. And you don't want to be missing one of them for much longer. You want to have them both out there. That's why I think 12 personnel should be kind of a heavy emphasis. You know what I mean? Exactly where they live at this year, just for the simple fact of the run game, whether it's Devin Singletary, aka Mulder. But they also drafted my guy Tyrone Tracy out of Purdue, former wide receiver converted the running back. They got Eric Gray there, so there's some young talent in that running back room, and some versatility, guys that can catch the ball. Like Tyrone Tracy can line up in the slot, he can line up out wide. He actually has experience. When we talk about that with a lot of running backs, he's actually played receiver and beat DBs one-on-one. Like he knows how to win like that, so that can give you an extra element to your passing attack. And try to use all those bodies to replace a Saquon Barkley in some way, shape, or form. But at the end of the day, you want to run the ball and just kind of make the game as easy as possible for Daniel Jones and just get him into a rhythm, give him layups, get him in the layup line, quick throws, get it to Malik Neighbors. But also, once the run game is kind of well-oiled and is rolling, play action, seam ball, tight end posts, you know what I mean, from inline to either one of these tight ends. Go to 12 and give them different variations of your passing attack, your running attack. That's why Theo Johnson, to me, and ESPN has him listed as tight end 2. So like you said, Keith, he's important right now. Like you need this young man this season. And I really want to see how he just naturally develops with an offensive mind like Brian Daboll, designing and calling plays, how they can get the ball to him and in what type of ways, because he's going to be able to, even if they go to max protect, Keith, like you think about having 2 tight ends on the field, and you want to get one of them in a route and have 3, route options, you can keep him in line. Talking about Theo Johnson, because he pass protects too. He's just that good of a blocker. So the value is not just as a receiver for him. He does it all, and you're going to need a guy that can do it all on this offense to just give you some more playmaking and stability up front.
Yeah, I agree. And this is a situation that is, much as I talk about it and I'm not optimistic about it, I'm definitely interested to see how it unfolds, right? I'm interested to pay attention to this depth chart, the wide receiver core combined with the tight end room, and see who, I guess, fares out, right? Like who performs well, how do they start to mold? Because the one thing that they're lacking is identity. So that's probably the thing that I'm most important to see is their identity. What do they develop into? Which running back emerges from this running back room? But DP, that wraps up the episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. If you can hear my voice, go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to comment and make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us, because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube. Wherever you listen to podcasts, get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Listen, come and join the conversation again tomorrow on Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.